two-time WWE champion. Can you hear me out there?
Yo, yo, yo.
I think so.
Good.
Check, check. Hello? Come.
Hey guys, what are you doing? Make some noise, yeah, woo!
Excellent. Well, thank you for all joining us for this.
Say what? No, we're good. Are we good?
I'm really good.
All right.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for joining us for this panel. I'm Dr. Eric Wesselman. I'm a psychology professor by day, nerd all the time. I had the great pleasure and privilege to talk with these two gentlemen who really need no introduction. Ah, yes.
Can I, a little bit of
Troublemaker.
Cap, you
Troublemaker.
can write a book about them.
So there we go. That's the plan, my evil scheme. So, check, check. There we go. Pause for technical difficulties.
Aren't you glad you came? How many of you have not visited our tables yet?
Shit, you have a mission after this.
Check out this camera here, man. That's pretty cool. What is that? I like that a lot.
Check, check, check.
All right, I'll talk really loud. Like my collection.
Papa. Here, this one sounds better.
So I'll just talk loudly.
Go ahead, Bob.
You go first.
All right. When I was a young child, I looked up at my TV and I saw Buff Bagwell.
Liar!
No, I loved wrestling. I loved it, and I knew I was not a particularly gifted athlete. I thought I could make up for my lack of genetics with a theatrical flair. And it was like my first day in wrestling when I realized, oh, this is a lot more physical and a lot more real than I thought it would be. And many was the time I thought of bailing out. I'm glad that I didn't brag, but I boldly stated to anyone who would listen the fact that I was going to be a wrestler. And so when I was like 3 hours in, I wanted out, but I couldn't, you know? And luckily, I kept working hard and finally got the hang of it to where it became, the fun overshadowed the pain, and I stuck around for a while.
Excellent.
Yeah, I actually, most wrestlers, I think, truly did look up at the TV and say, I want to be a wrestler. They wanted to be a wrestler from the time they were young. They dressed up at Halloween as their favorite wrestler. Their birthday parties were wrestling based. And my family, it was not like that. My family was, we knew who Ric Flair was. We knew Gordon Foley, the announcer. We knew the Road Warriors. We knew Lex Luger, but we didn't really watch wrestling a lot. We watched it like on Sundays. We were real a southern family. You know, we deer hunted and stuff like that. So like we'd come home from deer hunting and watch pro wrestling on the weekends at dinner. You know, and I got older in my teens. You know, sports and stuff took over. So really, wrestling was not even on. I didn't watch it. I didn't know anybody that was a wrestler and nothing like that at all. I just remember my brother and them always talking about like Dusty Rhodes and names names like that, and we'd talk about it at dinner sometimes as a kid. So my senior year, my parents went broke out of a lumber business. We had a very successful lumber business, and I was a senior. It was 1988, so I had a wonderful, great life that my parents had gave us financially. And it was ending in 1988. So my dad came to the three boys and he goes, "What do y'all want to do?" My oldest brother picked a gym. My middle brother picked a drywall company. And I was 18. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I wanted to do something with sports. I didn't know what. So my grade point average was horrible because we were going to work for our parents. We literally went to school just to play ball. I was real good in baseball, football, and wrestling. And I was a really good athlete, and I wanted to do something with sports. But I had a horrible grade point average. So what could I do to get something in sports medicine or sports something? And it was massage. Sports massage was the first easiest thing to get done to try to work for this goal. So I went to the Atlanta School of Massage, and I became a licensed massage therapist at 19 years old. And I was excited, man. I was so excited about it. I graduated #1 in my class, 15 grand to go to this school, 10 months. And I graduated flying colors. I'm excited about it. Go to my first class. My first job was called corporate sports. A lady walks in to get a massage. We meet eye to eye, and she turns and walks out. And I go, "Whoa, where are you going?" She goes, "There's no way I'm letting you massage me." And I went, "Why?" She goes, "My husband would kill me. I may have some fat on my back. I may have a bump on my back. And for some reason, something that had not been told to me once in 10 months hit me right in the face. There was not going to be any women that was going to be comfortable taking their clothes off in front of me to get a massage. And it devastated me, like instantly. I was like, this is going to be really tough." Well, I, of course, wasn't going to take that as a no, so I kept trying to figure out a way that I could massage with the women would get more comfortable with that segue of getting into a room and taking their clothes off to a male and not being uncomfortable. And I tried, man, for 6 months. I mean, 6 months hard, I tried, and it didn't happen. I got better and better, and my clientele got better and better. It was all dudes. It was just men. And it was, when you got women and men, it's a lot more people, you know, so I needed that women, you know, clientele that I did not have. So in the middle of that horrible time trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, I'm at the pool one day, and Missy Hyatt sees me at the pool. And she was getting a divorce from hot stuff Eddie Gilbert. And so she moved in next door to me thinking I was single, and I was actually with a woman named Tanya. And so we all became friends, and she actually gave me the idea to be a pro wrestler. And I said, those guys don't make no money. And she goes, "Our lowest paid guy makes $100,000 a year." And I said, "So tell me more about this." Well, she didn't tell me the part that me and Mick know, which is it's really, really tough. So being a really great athlete, everybody in Marietta is excited that I'm going to be a pro wrestler. So I go to class, I go to school one night, and I come home and I quit. I was not going back. My whole family was devastated. They're like, "What? I mean, you can do everything. You're good at everything." I was horrible at this for a year. And I'd get in the car and just be so upset that I couldn't figure this out. But the more I couldn't get it, the more I tried. And then finally here I am 34 years later.
Excellent, excellent, thank you.
And more important than the 34 years is the 1 year. Can I say this?
Yes, I just forgot about this.
I just found this out yesterday, and so I posted about it on Instagram. Buff has been through some tough stuff over the years, but he is proud to say it. I'm so proud of him. As of today, he is 1 year sober.
Yes, thank you so much. I got 1 year sober. Wow. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Mick.
Yeah, you're welcome. I can tell because in past appearances, he's not always this bright-eyed and alert. And so we worried about Buff, and I was just so glad to see him show up looking so good. And then he told me the news. I was just really happy for him. Really happy.
We've had so many people fall, man. I know your number's got to be mine or more. I have pro wrestled over 100 guys that are dead now. That don't count Dusty Rhodes that hired me. That don't count Jim Elwig, Ultimate Warrior, because I didn't wrestle him. Guys I wrestled are over 100 that died. And I know that over half of those are drug related. You know, I know they are. And I was going to be a statistic. I really was. And so this go around here, I had a car wreck that hurt my knee real bad, and I finally did something that hurt me, and I was mad about it. And so I decided this, I really want to get clean for me, and I got clean for myself on this one. And so today is 1 year. Thank you guys, man. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you guys.
So, both of you have played various characters in your career. How do you?
I don't know if we played them as much as we portrayed them.
Well, so give me a little bit more about that. Then, how do you approach your performance, getting into character? What do you bring to it? What's the exploration process?
Well, you try to bring your A game every night. So in becoming Cactus Jack, one of the biggest struggles for me was to become aggressive enough to where I could seem dangerous. I had a great assortment of bumps that I could use, but the late great Terry Funk told me that, unless I found a way to become more aggressive, that the bumps weren't going to mean as much. So for Cactus, I had to be tougher, stronger, braver. For Mankind, darker, and I'd actually go into the boiler room for a few hours before my matches. And Dude Love, I'm proud to say, amongst my fellow nerds, all I had to do was take my nerd dial, which was already at like 7.5, and just turn it up to 11. So, yeah, Dude was the nerd, and Dude, he was the pacifist wrestler. Kind of tough to pull off. And Jay Lethal, he loves a line in one of the video games, so we get to do the verbiage for ourselves, where when I'm being stomped, my reply is, "Ow, lighten up, daddy." Lighten up, daddy. So I just tried to bring something of myself. And then you just got to dig down deep to find those pieces of yourself. The Dude Love wasn't digging nearly as deep. That was just me being me, but slightly goofier. So that would be my answer when it came to portraying those characters. But the best matches come when you really believe you are that character. What's difficult is that when you forget how to become yourself after the show is over. And there's a long list of great wrestlers who did not know where the real person ended and the character began. Yeah, you kind of get into that.
Yeah, it's easy. It's very easy to do that, but a lot of wrestlers do, and I am one of them, without even realizing that you are. But mine's not a lot like Nick's. Mick was extremely successful with different characters. A lot of wrestlers have different characters, but they're not successful. Yeah. So it's just as much different. He had 3 successful characters. I started as Fabulous Fabian, which was a kid just trying to make it. And what Nick said for sure is 100% right, which is the dial. I always explain the dial in all of my characters because all of us as pro wrestlers are ourselves no matter what inside. And the idea is to turn me up. I was a rookie, but this was going to be a big deal. It was going to be WCW, the WWF, and it was going to be the GWF. We were on ESPN. It was a big deal. I mean, we're at the Sportatorium where the Von Erichs were, and it was just going to be a big, giant deal. And so me and Mick were out there with the Patriot, and Rip Rogers, and Harlem Heat was there, and just a lot of Eddie Gilberts, and a lot of big talent guys were there. And even X-Pac, he was the Lightning Kid there, and I was the Handsome Stranger. That was the second character. And then I was myself, which is really weird, which was Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Dusty hired me, and he wanted to use my real name, and I was really upset about it. I mean, every wrestler wants to be a character. You want to be something, I wanted to be Thor or Superman whatever you want to do, you want to be something. And I was just so upset about it. But my parents thought it was fantastic. They loved it, you know. So I was really upset about my own name. But WCW was really adequate about it. They wanted my name. So then when I thought of, when NWO happened, and I thought of my name, and I can't, every time I say I thought of it, I gotta correct it. We're trying to think of a name for me during the NWO thing. And I'm definitely getting popular, and my character is changing, but I don't know what name I want to use. So we're on a flight back home from Seattle, and in the back of the plane, man, we're sitting in first class, and in the back of first class, it was real dark, and I hear this voice say, "What about Buff?" And I can't remember what names we were trying to pick, but as soon as we heard it, I remember me and Lex went, like it just stopped, and we were like, that's it. And then we look, Nick Patrick is who named my name. He said Buff, and instantly it was like, that's it, Buff Bagwell. It was done. So WCW would not allow me to change my name. I wanted it just to be Buff Bagwell, you know, period. And if you ever look at the TV and stuff, they would never do that. It was Marcus Buff Bagwell. They would not allow me just to be Buff. They wouldn't let me do it. So I went with Marcus Buff Bagwell, but that's how Buff was born. But looking back on it, I really believe I was trying to be Buff the whole way. I was trying to figure out a way to, you know, portray that kind of character that was cocky, flamboyant, his body, and that stuff just kind of comes over time. And that's what happened with that. Even the Mankind thing, you know, happened over an injury that I was with Mick on in Germany. When it hurt your ear.
Yeah, I lost my ear though.
That's when that kind of started the whole thing.
Well, what happened is I lost my ear. Some of you who are not wrestling fans are free to leave. No one will think less of you. But I did a match. It didn't work out quite as I'd hoped. And when I got out of the entanglement, I was without one of my ears. And the only thing I could think of is in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, most people would be pretty down, right? All I could think of is, imagine the promos. This is a gift from the wrestling gods. You couldn't write something this good. And then when I stood by and I watched them do nothing with it, I thought, man, if they can't do something with a missing ear, I'm not in the plans. And that's around the time I thought about leaving, and I did leave. And WCW treated me well on my way out, but not once did they ever call me in and ask me to reconsider. So I went out on the indie scene for 15 months, and when I got the call from Mr. McMahon, it was about our third meeting, since you're giving the origin of your name. I had been told what he wanted to call me a day before I had the meeting, and he wanted to call me Mason the Mutilator. And I thought, that's DOA, that's dead on arrival, right? I'm not up here on a stage 28 years later talking about a career no one would remember if I was Mason the Mutilator. So I used my own type of psychology. So when Mr. McMahon goes, did they tell you your name? I said, no. He goes, in this business, we've had crushers, we've had destroyers, we've had executioners, but we've never had a mutilator. And that's what you are. And then he added the name Mason to it, Mason the Mutilator. He said, what do you think, pal? And I said, here's the psychology. I said, I like it. I like it a lot. But what if, instead of Mason, you were to call me Mankind the Mutilator? He kept this look, he was, I'm not sure I understand. I said, that way, when we talk about mankind, we're talking about both impersonating people, the destruction of mankind, the future of mankind. He was writing down in his notebook, and when I appeared for my first match, I had no idea what my name was. And then I hear Howard Finkel said, coming down the aisle, Mankind! No Mason, no Mutilator, but I still somewhere got my first WrestleMania packet because I was set to debut the day after Mania, and all it says on it is Mutilator. So I took my best shot and it worked out.
That's great,
yeah, pretty good. And you got to hear my Vince imitation.
I want to pause a bit and give a couple audience questions. Sure, shout it out.
Mick Foley. When going into the match with Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell match, what were like going in and out of it? What were you like thinking mentally and physically?
Oh, going into it, it wasn't until I got up on top of the cell that I realized this had been the worst idea of my life. And after the match, I felt even more strongly that it had been the worst idea of my life. But apparently it made an impression because we just celebrated the 25-year anniversary of that match. And the amazing thing to me is that when I talk to people about the match, half of the people I talked to were not even born when it took place. So it's gone down. Yeah, you'd be one of them, right? Yeah. It's the go-to match that wrestling fans show their non-wrestling fans to prove it's not what they thought it was.
And it's real.
It's real, Garnet. It's real. Well, you can tell the difference between a fake sport like pro wrestling and a real sport like baseball, football, basketball, because in a real sport, the game stops when one of the participants is no longer conscious. But in our sport, the phony sport, we don't stop matches, we buy time. And the legendary late great Terry Funk, he came in and bought time. He took a choke slam for The Undertaker. The process, his shoes came off his feet, and he did whatever needed to be done, bought me enough time so that I could continue that match. So I'm really proud of the fact that me, Terry, The Undertaker, somehow found a way to carry on that night. But
Is that really what happened? You really got knocked out right
yeah,
there?
I knocked out 42 seconds, I think.
I don't remember you being, I remember, of course I remember it was the match, but really you were unconscious.
I was just laying there. And
What were you thinking?
I rolled over, I hit, and then I rolled over very slowly. As I was coming to, I didn't know that Terry had been in the ring, and that in the process of trying to help me buy time, his shoes had come off. So when I rolled over, my first conscious thought was, where'd those shoes come from? And that's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth.
That's great.
Okay.
All right. First an opinion. I think the American males tag team would have worked better had Cactus Jack been the partner instead of Scotty Riggs.
Oh, come on.
Absolutely, right? I mean,
Thanks.
No, I'm just kidding. The actual question I have for both of you is, in your career, what is the hardest bump you ever took that made you like kind of think when you went backstage, all right, that was a bit too far. I don't want to do that again.
You have a question?
mine is, let's see, like where I was scared. Well, mine's very easy now that I think about it. Mine was Columbia, South Carolina, April 22nd, 1998. And Rick Steiner came up with a bulldog, and he actually misses me on the spot. And, you know, I'd taken this bulldog 1,000 times, but when he missed me, you know, live TV cameras were rolling, so I'm trying to catch up to the move to make it look like it was an appropriate move. And when I did, I went into Rick's back, and my neck went this way, and I was instantly paralyzed for about 8 or 10 minutes. And so that feeling of, as soon as I got hit, I can't explain it except it wasn't like, oh man, I'm hurt a little bit, oh man, what's up? I knew I was 100% paralyzed. For the rest of it, keep in mind, you're not paralyzed and then it come back, ever. I don't know anybody's ever done that. I'm sure there has been, but I don't know anybody. So I'm paralyzed, and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's over. And they don't give you a memo to say, hey, here's what to do when the person's paralyzed in their pro wrestling match with live cameras going. So Rick Steiner goes to pull me over, and I go, I'm paralyzed. And his eyes got gigantic, and Scotty's coming down to hit Rick with a chair and put me on top, 1, 2, 3, NWO wins, and none of that happened because I couldn't move. So that hit of him hitting me by far was the scariest, craziest, wildest thing. And what happened medically, so people understand, is I bruised my spinal cord. So when my cervical disc broke in my neck, it hit my cord. When that happened, it didn't sever it, it hit it. By hitting my cord, it bruises, so it swells. And when it swells, the human body thinks it's 100% paralyzed. 8 minutes later, the swelling goes down and you're able to move. But I was taped to the board, so 3 hours later, after MRIs and CAT scans, the doctor comes in and says, "Sit up." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Sit up." And I was like, so I did the Undertaker sitting up, and I was totally fine. But they had to go in and medically fix it surgically. But I bruised my spinal cord, so that was my worst one ever.
I got nothing.
You just talked about it, I think.
Nothing that could quite stack up to that. The one that's coming to mind is a really easy bump, but it's one of the more difficult bumps. Choke slam is difficult because you're absorbing all the impact on a relatively small part of your body. And if you go off to just slightly to an angle either left or right, you can damage your ribs, you can get some internal bleeding, especially in the old WWE rings before they went with longer boards in 1998. So I remember taking a choke slam from The Undertaker in a TV match in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and must have hit something the wrong way because immediately I felt all this internal blood kind of start coming up in me. And so for the last couple minutes of the match, I was like Dizzy Gillespie on a trumpet solo. I was just my cheeks puffed out with this blood that was coming up from inside me. Ran to the back afterwards, people are patting me on the back, nice match. And I did just spit blood all over the place. And it was scary for me because I thought, I don't know if I could do this. I come from the background of doing the wild matches in Japan and ECW, but actually the impact, if you hit in the wrong place on that old WWE ring, like you go back and you watch WrestleMania 10 with Owen and Bret Hart in a great cage match, and you'll see, I think Bret giving Owen a superplex, or maybe vice versa, and they hit the canvas after a superplex and the ring doesn't move. It was like a tank. And that's part of the reason why pay-per-views in the mid-'80s lacked some action, because it was so difficult at that time. They put a priority on that ring not moving, because Dick Ebersol of NBC didn't want to see the rings moving on Saturday night's main event. And the way to do that is to build them like a tank. And so I think, the growth of WCW made Mr. McMahon see, like, hey, if you want your guys doing what they can do, you can't keep them in that ring. It just wasn't, it wasn't a good place to do the best you could. So I'm going with simple choke slam. Buff's going with paralysis. He's got the more manly story. I'll tell you, I just want to say, Buff's injury had such an impact on the industry that it was a good 6 to 8 months before most people went back to hating him. So,
Thank you. And that's true.
I'm a huge fan of Chris Jericho. Do you guys have any little short Jericho stories?
We both hate him.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
That's in a joke sense. Hi, I'm Bill. I'm a Jericho-holic. I've been Jericho-holic for 23 years. I became a fan of him in 2000 when he won the title, was fighting China on the title. But did you guys have any short little Jericho stories you might be able to tell?
My Jericho story is I meet Chris, and the Buff character was really getting very popular, and I was getting over at WCW, and the guys liked me at that stage. And so we're backstage, and Chris was complaining. He had to lose to me on Nitro, and he was complaining about it. And so my first take of Chris was, who's he think he is? I mean, god dang, man, I'm Buff Bagwell at this stage, and you should do your job, for the kid. So man, it was a rough match because that's what happens in this business, this fake wrestling business is if two guys out there, things happen, and he was not happy about having to lose, so he was, kind of tough in the ring, but the match was excellent afterward. But after the match, we became really good friends, went to Japan together. But I always think of Chris Jericho and Mick at the same time in my brain because they both left WCW and the guys thought they were both crazy. Mick was leaving because they wouldn't use his ear. He was making great money, guaranteed.
Okay, decent money.
Yeah.
Decent.
But a guaranteed contract, and back then that was a big deal for us getting guaranteed money. And we it wasn't like he's lost his mind, but I do remember everybody being like, God, I can't believe God just is leaving, man, But look what happened from it. It was incredible. But we really thought it was a mistake, and we thought that Jericho leaving because he left about the same time. We thought that Chris was also making a mistake leaving guaranteed money on the table. So those two guys, when I think back on it, both we thought as a group were making a mistake, and they both succeeded very greatly.
And I think my favorite Jericho story is that playing off the fact that in his first memoir, he must have mentioned 30 times that I'd never actually defeated him, which was true. I think I was like 0-4 against Jericho. So when I was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013, I was really lucky. I was to be inducted on the stage at Madison Square Garden. That was where I grew up, taking trains and hitchhiking to matches. No knock on this wonderful stage here, right here in, what's the name of the city we're in? Davenport, right here in Davenport, Iowa. Home of Seth Rollins. Home of Becky Lynch now. I said, hey, it hasn't been a perfect career. I had a pretty good speech going. It has not been a perfect career. I never defeated Chris Jericho. And the next thing I know, Jericho slides up, hops up onto the stage at the Garden, and lays down as if to say, hey, go ahead and pin me. And I say audibly, sorry, brother, I'm all out of elbows, right? Because I know I can't drop them anymore. I'm now frail. And then CM Punk hops up on the stage. At first, I didn't know what he was there for. Then I realized he is there to make the count. And so bad hip and bad knee or not, I realized if I don't drop this, some type of elbow on that stage, I'm gonna be doomed to an existence where every day I wake up, I look in the mirror, you know what I'm gonna see looking back at me? A coward. And so I called an audible. I said to Jericho, you're gonna take all the impact on this. By God, that's not exactly what happened. I dropped my entire body weight on Jericho, picked up that 3 count, and it was one of the greatest victories of my career. So there you go.
That is a good one. You had mentioned before, Mick, about Terry Funk, late great Terry Funk. Do either one of you have a great Terry Funk story? I know, Mick, you might have a couple.
With your camera on?
With my camera on, yes, sir.
What are you going to do with that? Are you going to sit back and watch the whole thing?
No, actually, I'm part of the Card Subject to Change podcast. We're going to broadcast it to our listeners.
All right. So you want to know about Terry? Give away my good Terry stories for your podcast. This is one that I haven't told, and this is a second-hand one, but it was Bronco Lubitsch telling me a story about Terry Funk coming into the world-class territory sometime in the 70s as the Texan. And so a guy says, hey, I'd like to get the Texan's autograph. And so Bronco says, Terry, can you give me, he realized what he did, and Terry pulled Bronco over and he goes, you know, we have to protect this business. You can't go calling me by my real name. About 5 minutes later, a guy goes up to Bronco and says, hey, I know that the Texan is actually Terry Funk. And Bronco, oh no, what did I do? And he goes, why do you say that? He goes, well, he signed his name, Terry Funk. And And then it was Bronco's turn to browbeat Terry for not protecting the business. So there's a harmless one, not a very good one. It's going to be good enough for you. Okay, there you go.
Hi, my name is Joel Day. I used to watch old clips with my dad on YouTube all the time, and one of them is the dynamic between you and The Rock. So, whose idea was it to pair you two together?
Well, I don't like to talk about those days too much. Because one of the saddest things to me is wasted potential. And at one time, Dwayne Johnson was on the verge of becoming a star, and just let it slip away. So, poor guy. Rock and Sock connection. Well, Rock and I had great chemistry as opponents, and we thought, hey, we were like an odd couple. Now I was a good guy, he was a good guy, and it was like, who better to come to someone's rescue than a former opponent? And we just played off each other so well. So little of what we did was prompted or written down. A lot of it was just acting and reacting, and it just worked. It worked better than any of us would have imagined. And that was originally conceived as an angle where I could turn on him as the heel, but we saw that the connection we were making was very real. And although it may have cost me in the short term by having, one or two really big pay-per-view matches with him, I liked it. It felt legit, and I felt like part of the legacy I wanted to leave was that Mankind character had kind of evolved into a real lovable character, and that was much closer to me than the original Mankind was. And so I argued for the team to stay together, and we did. I didn't find out until years went by, and The Rock told me the same thing. Like, we didn't know that what we were doing was going to stand the test of time. But right behind the cell match, I get asked about the Rock and Sock connection. And what we were finding is that we really put smiles on people's faces when they were down. There were kids in the hospital, and they looked forward to the Rock and Sock stuff. That era of Mankind made it seem okay to be different. So a lot of people who were struggling and didn't feel like they fit in found somebody that they could, had something in common with. And so it was a really good time for both of us. Thanks for the question.
Hi, so this might be easy, might not be easy, but what's your guys' dream match?
My dream match. You know what? The two names I used to always give were Moxley and Bray Wyatt. And so we've lost Bray. That would have been, I would have loved to go into psychological warfare with him. And I think it would have resulted in some really good promos. And now that there are cinematic match options, we could have just got someone else to do the tough work for me. And I would no longer be a stuntman of any kind. We would have somebody come in, and it could have been really cool. The Moxley thing, I mean, who knows? I don't think I have a match left in me, but as crazy as it sounds, deathmatch wrestling is actually less impactful if you do it a certain way. You end up with scars and bleeding and possibly burns, but from a skeletal standpoint,
Longevity.
the healthiest I ever was in my wrestling career was when I did ECW and IWA Japan. Like, I was in rough shape from coming home and having all these scars and burns and whatnot, but I felt pretty good otherwise, structurally. As far as being able to do the most push-ups, the most Hindu squats, my knees weren't bothering me, my shoulders weren't bothering me, because I could go to that other stuff. And so in a weird way, it kind of gave me a little vacation from the other impactful things I did.
Mine would be The Rock. I always wanted to face The Rock. It just would have been, to me, it would have been a story that would have told itself. I mean, The Rock was extremely charismatic, and he was also, we're like a year apart, we're the same age. So coming up, he came from like the Nation of Domination, and then I came from the NWO, and he worked his way up in that group, I worked my way up in it was just a perfectly told storyline to WWF, WCW, to the merge to, there was no doubt about it, going to The Rock and Buff somewhere down the line. So I would have loved to have seen that or done that one.
That would have been a good one.
I heard this story, but I think everybody else should too. I talked to you yesterday. Buff, tell the story of how you joined the NWO.
Say again?
How you joined the NWO, that story you told me yesterday.
The NWO was, of course it was a big thing right away. Everybody knew it was going to be a big deal. And Hulk had switched to, a bad guy, and the red and yellow was gone away. And so we're in Salisbury, Maryland, and I was with Scotty Riggs as the American Males, and Nash came in and asked me if I wanted to be in the NWO, and I was like, are you kidding? Absolutely, yes. So I remember Scotty Riggs' face that day was rough, because nobody's gonna say no to being in the NWO, and then so Scott was like, do you say sorry or what? But Scotty was real upset. But the storyline they told was Eric Bischoff was saying that 30 days, the guys in the back had 30 days to join the NWO, or you were fired. So me and Scotty Riggs were the first two out, and Scotty was trying to taught me how to join the NWO, and that's how I joined. I was the seventh. I was the seventh guy to join the NWO.
All right, my question to you guys is, what are your thoughts on wrestlers getting over as fast as they are now? Like the LA Knight thing going on right now, to where you guys had to work at getting over, where like LA Knight's getting over like overnight.
I wouldn't call it overnight. The guy's been around for what, 15 years? Yeah, so he's a 15-year overnight sensation. and he's still constantly building. I've seen guys get over quicker than that. He's doing a great job. Sky could be the limit for them, but I wouldn't say that he's gotten over too quickly. And he hasn't really gotten his big break yet. Miz is like that great character from which you then jump to even bigger things. But you have to get by the Miz. So I imagine you'll see a lot more from LA Knight after this feud with Miz. I like to joke around about Miz quite a bit, but he is a guy that can lead people and provide an effective springboard up to bigger and better things, and he does it, Miz, without ever actually hurting his own character. So he's a perfect guy to be in a feud with, and I imagine we'll see bigger and better things. But I don't think anyone begrudges his journey, because I've seen videos of him when he was on the Independents being managed by Paul Bearer, and Uncle Paul's been gone for quite a while. So I don't think he's made it too quickly.
I really like LA Knight a lot, but again, he's been around. I love that. But he's going to get a lot bigger things are coming too. But I'm kind of with what you were saying, except I don't agree with LA Knight. But like AEW guys, it's just like I don't know, man. In our generation, looking the part of a pro wrestler, no matter if it was big, rough, tough, it was looking some part of being a pro wrestler. You walk into an AEW locker room right now, and I'm not sure if you would look like a bunch of wrestlers or not. I just don't, I'm not sure. And there's some good guys out there, some real good guys. Some super talented guys. But I remember walking into a locker room with Sid Vicious and Cactus Jack and Van Hammers and guys that at least looked like they would rip your head off. Those guys look like they're just gonna I don't know, play badminton with you or something. I don't know. It's just there's nobody that really just is a big, bad, tough guy. So there's a lot of like mid-card guys.
Well, I think has happened is I heard it explained that a big guy, bodybuilder, used to be able to look at what wrestling was and say, oh, I can do that. Now they kind of have to be an idiot to watch the athleticism and think they could do that without a lot of work. And so some of the guys that you knew, some of the guys did really well. The guys who ultimately do the best are the ones who love it. But there were guys who got breaks because they were discovering gyms and they were told they could make. They looked at what was on TV and thought to themselves, I can do that. But I think now a lot of the bigger guys are scared away because they see what's on TV and they go, I can't do that, and they're probably right. Now WWE is going about recruiting a different way, where they're recruiting college athletes who have the work ethic. And the trick is, if you can make them love it as much as they love their former sport, then they have a real good shot at attracting attention and becoming big stars in WWE. Sorry to disagree with you there.
Maybe we can try to do 2 more questions.
Question for Mick. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about the Mr. Sacco character and whether that was your idea or and it seemed like you had some heat with Mr. McMahon over that.
Over the sock?
Yeah, like kind of rolled his eyes a lot about it, or.
Oh, he put it over in his own. I'll explain to you. So first of all, how many times would you say you've been at my events? This is like our 10th time meeting. So thank you for being a constant presence, very kind presence. Look, one of the things it's like this, you don't know what works unless you try it, you know? I mean, I'm all about taking those big swings. I grew up in the era of Reggie Jackson, and his swings and misses were as exciting as the ones he launched into the stratosphere. So I thought, I'm going to be a guy whose misses are as exciting as as his hits are. And so we were, at that time, we had ideas of what we were supposed to do and what the scenario was supposed to bring about, but we didn't really have scripting. So all I knew is I'm headed to the hospital to visit Mr. McMahon. I have to make him angry enough to kick me out so that there is no one in the way of Stone Cold Steve Austin making his visit in a unique way. And so Vince Russo had arranged for a birthday party clown named Yerple to be in the hospital room with me. We had like a box of candy that was largely eaten by the time I got to him, and I was heading out the door, and I just thought I need one more gift. And I said, Al, what's one lousy gift that I can bring to visit Mr. McMahon? And Al said, how about a sock puppet? And I said, a sock puppet? He said, yeah, everyone hates a sock puppet. And so I took the thing, I drew it up, and I put it in my waistband, and I actually didn't even think about using it until we got into the hospital room. And Yerple, the clown, using her 25 years of birthday party experience, started stealing the show from me. And I don't care if I appear humble, nobody wants scenes stolen from them, let alone by someone who's not part of the crew. And so I was like, I got a sock, and next thing I know, I'm crawling underneath Mr. McMahon's gurney like I'm John Wayne in the sands of Iwo Jima. And when I came up, I had that sock puppet, and what made it so good is it was the worst ventriloquist act of all time. I am Mr. Sacco, I'm here to kiss the boo-boo. And then when I went to kiss, then you actually have Mr. McMahon unprompted going, no, Mick, don't kiss the boo-boo. And then when I did, I put too much weight on it, and he got mad at me, and he threw the box of candy, and goes, leave, damn it, leave, get out of here. And we leave, we go through the door, now the camera zooms in on him. Again, this is unscripted, it zooms in on him. He just looked off to the side, he said, Mr. Sacco. And I thought, this is one and done. I actually thought Steve Austin was kidding me when he started telling me how great it was the next day. I'm waiting, I'm not biting because I think he's gonna, I'm waiting for the rib. I'm waiting to go like, really, you liked it? And go, hell, catch your Cactus Jack, and you're playing with a sock puppet. And he kept telling me how much he enjoyed it. And then Vince Russo comes running over and he goes, bro, you got the sock? I was like, I don't know why. He goes, bro, they're chanting his name out there. They've got signs for him. And it just connected with the audience in a way I would have never anticipated. And even with that being said, that was 1998. 25 years later, I'm still signing socks. So something went right in that East Lansing hospital. And I'm still in touch with Yerple, which is probably the most important thing of all. Cool. Speak out loud.
is when, thank you very much, is when you were being interviewed documentary style by one Mr. Jim Ross, and you gave Jim Ross the mandible claw. And one of my favorite memories of that segment was when you called for help. He's gonna need some help. Can you tell me what your favorite moments, or just kind of a takeaway from that time, that interview segment?
That was one of the 10 best things I've ever done, because I was so completely in the zone for that one. WWE had just done an interview with Dustin Runnels, and it was like not character, it was completely out of character, and they wanted people to be able to understand the gold dust, the person, the real life family, the son of a legend trying to, trying to not to be stuck in his father's shadow anymore. And they wanted something like that to explain the character. And I said, I've got a lot of work tied up in this. And people did believe in it. And it's like, there's probably a handful of you who were scared when you were children as that character. And I said, what if I give 100% honest answers to questions that I have not seen, but I do them in the character of Mankind? And I remember Vince saying, you think you can do that? And I went, I know I can. And what unfolded was, it was really magical. And that I was in that zone where we talked about where I wasn't portraying the character at that point, I was the character. And I mean, to this day, I still remember, so you can see me starting to rock, right? And when I do my one-man shows, I will sometimes go into that Mankind character, and it's like people know that I'm just leaning down and I'm putting the mask on, but when I come up, they react as if it is that guy. So that was a really, really special interview. I think it did a lot for my longevity with the company, and it's one of the best things I've ever done. The part, I think I knew it was supposed to end with me getting angry with Jim and putting a mandible claw on him, but I thought the mark of a true, sociopath, help me out here, is that, or an interesting type of sociopath, is that as soon as I realized he's hurt, it's like something clicked and I went, he's gonna need some help here. He's gonna need some help, but I kind of wandered away. Like, I realize I've done damage. I feel bad about it, but not so bad that I want to face the music for doing it. And I remember getting in the car with Steve after the first segment aired. They decided to edit it into 5 pieces. And he goes, "They turning your baby face, kid?" I said, "No, they just want to people to know the character a little bit." He goes, "You'll be a baby face in 2 weeks." And I was. It was just a grassroots thing where people saw something in that character they liked, and they started cheering for him. So it was a turn without a turn. It was just something where after 5 weeks, fans found it really difficult to boo me, and they wanted to, cheer me on in this adventure. It was a good time.
Excellent. Well, so we need to sort of start to bring this wonderful panel to a close. One of the things I'd like to do is give you both the opportunity to if there are some projects you've got going on, things that you want to let your fans know to look for in the future, books, what have you, you can plug those.
Well, you can find both of us on Cameo. We love doing those messages. A few of you have gotten them, I did a handful of them at the table yesterday. Things were a little slow. And I've got the podcast. It's coming to a close. We have a handful more episodes. You just check out Foley's pod. This current week's show is a tribute to Terry Funk. Terry was an amazing guy, mentor to me and my idol, so I hope you'll tune in there. And then I just go around and do a couple of these a month. Gotta be honest, this one's been a little light. So if some of you could go there, it'll make up the company's gonna owe me, the con's gonna owe me a little money, unless you guys, come over there. And I do try to give you good interactions over there. Price is a little steep, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I take time with the signatures. I know that Buff does. These kids today, they give you the squiggle, right? They give you the squiggle. We give you the real deal, brother. So that's what I have going on. It's been a really nice time where you can show up a couple times a month, have some fun interacting, do these type of things. Buff and I were just saying that, hey, you know what? We wished yesterday had been rocking, but if had been rocking, we wouldn't have had a chance to talk. Instead, we had a chance to really hang out for the first time in a long time. Got a chance to talk to Devon quite a bit. Given the choice, I'd rather have had a rocking weekend, but we really did. We had a good time. Really happy to be up here with Buff, and I hope somebody will. I think we should just line up like the world's largest conga line and go right back to the tables.
Yeah, I've got an episode of Dark Side of the Ring coming out, which is really good. It's going to be season 5 on Vice, and it's really going to be a really good one. So try to check that out. And on the best way to find what I'm doing is my email address is marcusbuffbagwell@gmail. marcusbuffbagwell@gmail. That's how I stay in touch with all my fans and stuff. My website is marcusbuffbagwell.com. That's how you get to all my platforms, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. So marcusbuffbagwell.com, and I'm busy every weekend too. I'm either at a show doing a signing or at a con somewhere. So next big one for me is New York. Are you in New York? I'm in New York this year at the New York Con. It's a big one. I better say, yeah. October 13, 14. So that's a big one for us. We'll be at October 13 at New York. That's the next really big one. But I'm getting a knee replacement September 6th. So I'm taking the whole month of September off. So if you guys throw a prayer out there for me. But I'm actually planning and hoping to get back into the ring. So that's what I've been trying to do. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. And where they've come with knee replacements is really crazy how far they've come. So at my age, I'm 53. At my age, I really believe I got another shot at getting in the ring and being sober and healthy again. I think that I got a chance of doing it. So that's what's going on, man. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you guys for showing up today too.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming visiting us in Davenport, for spending this time with us and sharing your stories, and for being willing to meet fans back by your table. Thank you all for joining, and enjoy the rest of FunkCon.
Thanks, guys.
And meet them.